Hi there, I am Holly McDonald with the Costa Mesa Pod, where we discuss all things concerning the lifestyle, businesses, and activities that make our area such a great place to live. Today, I have Lety Aguilar with me of Northwestern Mutual, and she's going to kind of give us some of her story about why she does what she does in the world of financial planning, and just help us to understand a little bit more about the psychology of money and all of those things that make us tick. So I love this topic and can always get some more guidance too. So I'm excited for it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Holly. I think this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm super excited to talk to you just about in finance in general, but also like your thoughts on how people like myself can give more information and more education to people in general.
Yeah. Well, let's start off with, okay, so who are you?
So I am an immigrant from Mexico. I immigrated to the U.S. when I was 5. My family settled in Chicago, so that is where most of my family is. I grew up in a community or neighborhood called Little Village in Chicago. It's predominantly Mexican, so I was kind of definitely someone who grew up in both worlds.
Yeah.
You know, of that kind of Mexican culture. Very Spanish was my first language. Oldest of 3 girls. So I always kind of had that, first of experience with my sisters.
Yeah.
Always thinking about protecting them and helping them. And so that's really what I would say built who I am today when I look back. And I always was very determined, to kind of do something more with the opportunities that I had. So even when my parents didn't go to school really because of their situation in Mexico. And so I wanted to go to college. That was like my biggest first goal, was go to college, focus on my career. And so that's what I did. And so I went to DePaul University in Chicago, stayed local, was kind of a commuting student for a couple of years. And then just started I actually studied accounting.
Okay.
So I'm a very numbers-centered person. And at the time, I loved it because it was very logical, and I thought, okay, well, they said if you either get accounting or you don't. I got it, and it clicked. So I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. At that time, I thought it was very secure, like a pretty secure industry to go into. So I went down to down that path and then studied accounting, got my CPA. And so I did do a long, I would say most of my career so far was in the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
And then more recently, in the last couple years, and we'll talk through some of that, I'm sure, and why. But I made the shift into a more people-driven business, and really using a lot of that knowledge that I had, that I learned from the business world, right, to help people and help people in their day-to-day lives, help people make better decisions financially, especially because of what I see in my own community.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of, I would say, lack of access to this information.
Sure.
And also just lack of trust, to be honest with you, because I think in the immigrant community specifically, people come from countries, right, where the systems are just not what they are here in the U.S.
Yeah.
There's mistrust of the banking system, mistrust of the government, and so I think people just hold their cash.
Yeah.
Right, and the whole comment about, I don't know if you've ever heard it, where people say cash under the mattress.
I was just thinking that.
It's a real thing. Like, I literally can tell you so many of my family members, like, you found out about they stored their cash under the mattress. So that's kind of really who I am and why, I do what I do.
Okay, so for you then, growing up in an immigrant family, in a new culture, was there a lot that you saw between people that were here in America, right? And like, this is the land of plenty versus the area in which you settled that you said was still kind of very much like its own little enclave of your past society?
Completely. I think, although I didn't realize it until I probably was in high school.
Okay.
And I think it's because it's almost like you live in a bubble, right? So when you're surrounded by other immigrants, you're surrounded by Spanish-speaking people and your culture, you kind of just assume that that's your world. That's how everybody is.
Right, of course.
Right? And so I think for me, through a series of blessings in my life, I had people that saw me and knew that I could do more. So I had support actually of some teachers in my elementary school that allowed me to go to a 7th and 8th grade program, which then took me out of my neighborhood, and I went to a magnet school called Whitney Young High School in Chicago, which was life-changing.
I think I've heard of that before.
I think, and don't quote me, but I think that's where Michelle Obama went. I think a lot of people got to know about the school because of that. But it was an amazing school. It was one of the top schools in the city.
Yeah.
Because it is a Chicago public school, a lot of people, wanted their kids to go there because it was a very, very good, high education, great teachers.
Yeah.
And so I think when I went through that experience, that's when my world opened up. And that's when, to your point, I'll give you an example. I remember being at the open house. You know how you do like an open house for high school?
Yeah.
And I went by myself because I just didn't really know what it was, and my parents didn't speak English, right? So I was the first one, like I said, and I just thought, and they said, well, what's the point of us going? We're not going to understand anything people are saying. And I just thought, okay, sure. And then I go, everybody was with their parents.
Oh.
And I felt so embarrassed,
Sure.
right? Like, it felt really strange. I was like, wow, like I can't even bring my parents, like they can't have these conversations. They can't hear about what's going on in the curriculum and all the things. And then I would see all these kids' parents asking the questions, right? Asking teachers and getting information. And I think that's when it hit me that my life was different than other people, like traditional American families in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of me realizing that parallel world almost, right, that I had grown up in.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then almost having one foot in one and one in the other for like the rest of my life, pretty much.
Were your parents very supportive of you going to the magnet school? Did they understand, like, the opportunity that would come with that?
I love the question. I wish I could say yes. They were super excited. I had to fight and, like, not physically, obviously, but I had a lot of discussions with my father about it. Mm-hmm. I think for him, right, Mexican families, and I don't know if you know this, but they tend to be very protective, mm-hmm. and especially of women, right? He only had daughters. So for him, or for both of my parents, the thought of me being so far away, I didn't have a school bus, so they would have to drop me off. You know, it was significantly far. It was like almost downtown Chicago, so like a good 30 to 45 minute drive every day.
Okay.
So it was a big sacrifice for them to drop me and do that. But on top of that, they were very uneasy because I was going to be so far. They wanted me to go to the neighborhood school.
Yeah, they probably felt like safer and more secure with what they knew.
And they didn't get why. Like, to them, it's a school. Like, it's one high school versus another high school. Why would you have to go do that? So it was a lot of arguing, especially also when I did that 7th and 8th grade program at a different school. Yeah. But I think early on there was something in me that I always felt like a warrior of sort. Like, I just had to fight for everything that I wanted. And it was more because it wasn't because I was being stubborn, but it was because something inside of me just told me that this was a good thing for me.
Yeah, you were being called.
Exactly. Yeah. And even though it's interesting because now as I'm older, I think that's pretty magical, right? And I think it's also faith. It's also God that was guiding me. Yeah. Because I can't explain logically. I didn't have the example. I didn't have their support necessarily in terms of them wanting me to go. Yes. But my mom, I would say, was always supportive. Like, she kind of trusted me to make the right choices. She knew I was smart. She knew that I was pretty determined. So she supported me with my dad. So eventually she helped me convince him, and they made it work. And then the nice thing is, eventually my sister, my middle sister, she ended up getting into Whitney Young. So then the two of us were going, and she's only a year and a half. We're only a year and a half apart. So we got to go together for 3 out of the 4 years that I was there.
You make this sound kind of like a Disney movie in a way, where it's like there's the helpless child who just has this like burning passion and goes for it, takes that leap of faith. Yeah. So that's where it all started.
That's where it all started in terms of, I would say I got out of that bubble and I just realized, like, wow, this is a much bigger world than I ever envisioned. Yeah. I think seeing other people and seeing other students, being in that environment of, like, for example, where I lived, right, the expectation was graduate 8th grade. Like, that's kind of what the bar was, because most people unfortunately dropped out. They were in gangs, right? You have girls unfortunately getting pregnant at 14, 16 years old. Yeah. And I just was like, that can't be my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was the world I was in. Like when I told that world I wanted to go to college and be a professional, they kind of laughed, right? Because in that world, that's not normal. And so, or they just think it's not possible, or they think of all the excuses why you can't do it. And then I go to my Whitney Young world, and people are talking about SATs, and they're talking about your, what do you get on your exams, and you have to make sure you get the highest scores, and what colleges are you applying to? Are you applying to Yale, Harvard, Stanford? And I was like, what? Right? It was a completely different world, but it also established that threshold or that standard much higher for me.
Yeah.
And being there, I would be embarrassed to say I wouldn't consider going to college.
Yeah.
So that helped me because, and this is why I do believe when people say, is it, nature versus nurture? I think it's a bit of both, but the environment matters a lot.
Well,
it matters a lot because you get support and you see yourself in other people, and it just drives you to do more, and it drives you to be more inspired, by seeing others that have aspirations to be CEOs or CFOs. It was pretty amazing to have that, and I do think that's why I landed where I did.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about how they always say that you are kind of the culmination of the people that you surround yourself the most with, like those top 5 or whatnot. So, yes, going off to that different high school where everybody had all these much higher standards, you wanted to acclimate, fit in, belong, and then aspire to that. So that is great. And then so I guess let's bring it around a little bit to what you do today and why. So I know that you worked in accounting, but now you're kind of in the world of, finance and helping people. What made that shift for you?
So I initially, right when I did accounting, again, I almost feel like it's hard to put it into words, but I kept moving that goalpost to a different place, right, as I went on in my life. Like that first one was go to college, get an education. And then with that was get a job right out of school, get a job that pays me well, right, pay my student loans. I think for me, I really wanted to be a professional. I really wanted to be in the corporate world, in the business world. Yeah. And so when I got into a rotational program, because I think this is important as well, with Abbott Labs at the time, it was one of the most competitive internship programs, which I got into. Then the rotational program, 2 years. I truly felt that was it. Like I thought, I did it. I made it. I have this rotational program. It's a leadership program. I'm going to go up the corporate ladder. It's going to be amazing. And it was. Like, I learned so much. I realized I'm a lifetime learner. I get bored of doing the same thing, so I wasn't going to be that person that can be in one job for 20 years and be happy. Yeah. So I did that. I probably over 16 years, I had about 10 different roles, a lot across the company, different areas, right? I ended up doing more. I moved away from accounting, to be honest with you, because I found it easy, but also very logical and really boring. No, nothing against accountants. And it's good. It's like, I call it like a financial language. It's good to have the language. It's good to have the baseline of the knowledge. Yeah. And that helped me excel. But really what I realized about myself, I did really well with relationship building. Okay. So a lot of what got me to where I did to the director level at AbbVie was being a supporting financial partner to my colleagues, right? So to R&D teams, clinical teams, scientists, depending on what role I had. Yeah. I did manufacturing, so I used to have a plant manager as my client, so to speak. So I always kind of had this client role where I was supporting someone, even if it was like a commercial VP. And then I would partner with them and sit in on the strategy and help them with the numbers. So it's interesting because I never thought of financial planning or financial advising in that way. Yeah. But as I started to think about what was next in the second part of my career, like my second chapter, let's say. Yeah. I did have a choice, at some point to say, okay, do I continue this path? I was almost at 20 years there. And, benefits, everything, pension. Yeah. And I thought, but something felt missing in terms of the impact to the community. So I something I didn't mention is through all the time, right, in high school, college, I've always been taking a leadership role in a volunteering sense of doing like Latino-based student groups or motivating other kids, motivating other students. I did it in my ERG, the Employee Resource Group, within the company too.
So, just trying to help other people get to their next level.
Exactly. So always there was a part of me that's always wanted to give back.
Yeah.
And so I think that part of it started to fade away because I didn't have the time anymore. So the more I went up in my career and the demands, right, and had a team, and I have kids. I have 2 boys, 6 and 10 years old.
Yeah.
I'm a wife. Like, it's just a lot of things. So that part of my life started getting smaller and smaller because I just didn't have the time.
Right.
And the reality is my job, right, they valued that, but they were like, well, that's great, but you need to focus on your job. Right?
Yeah.
This is what we pay you for. So, and I understood that, right? And I still did it as much as I could, but my heart, I would say, missed that. And that's where I started to really kind of, I worked with an executive coach for 6 months. I paid out of pocket. I invested in myself to figure out, is there another option, right? Yeah. Is there another job or career that I could do that allows me to utilize all this knowledge I have, but really like get closer to the community, get closer to the underrepresented communities that we have in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
That don't know about a lot of this. And lastly, just to answer, I know it's a long answer, but
what was the question again?
Right? But
no, this is great.
But this is the thing that really got me when I would go to events or networking events.
Yeah.
As a female, as Latina, right? The people's eyes would light up when I would say, oh, I do finance. And they're like, oh my gosh, great, I need help. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And it always made me think like, oh, I guess that's unfortunate. Like, I really can't, because especially in this country, right, you have to be licensed to be an advisor. You have to have a lot of things under your belt in order to officially do that.
Right.
And it always made me feel so powerless to have to tell them, well, I mean, sure, I can help maybe, like we can have a conversation, but that's not what I do, right? I work in corporate finance.
Yeah.
And that's where the spark kind of started. And that was probably even 5 years ago when those conversations would happen, and I would just think about it, and then eventually led me here to become a financial advisor.
Yeah, well, money is one of those things that, like it or not, we all have to deal with it.
Yes.
In society, absolutely. And in our area, too, there is a wide variety. You might not think of it if you think of one city or one part of town versus another, but there is such a wide range, and there's so many people, and we're all dealing with it in one way or another.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the one thing you're right, we all cannot escape, whether we like it or not, just like taxes, right?
And death.
And death, yes. Which are all very, very appropriately included in financial planning, actually.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but it is. It's one of those things that when I look at people, and it's funny because now that I do this, I just get so excited because I'm like, everyone could use this. Anyone could benefit from getting some guidance or knowledge or advice, right? It's the access that I know maybe we'll talk about, but that I think is sometimes disappointing or historically what the access to some of the knowledge has been.
Yeah.
I think that we could do better in that sense.
I was going to mention that, you had mentioned like you were in a comfortable job, corporate, with benefits and whatnot, which benefits from so I'm an entrepreneur now, so I don't have benefits. But I do remember when I used to be in the corporate world, having benefits and being so terrified of losing them.
Yes.
And so making a shift to do something that felt more aligned with what I wanted to do as well felt like, is this really a smart decision? Like, my employer is contributing to my 401k and I get sick days or whatever it was, Was that something that you encountered, and do you feel that a lot of people maybe feel like that's the proper path, is to just have the corporate job, have that sort of taken care of, and then they just they're kind of set on a repeat cycle?
Absolutely. I think you hit it spot on. I think the reason why I think companies do well and are able to keep employees, right, and retention, it's because of that fear, right? And it's not something to take lightly, like, for sure. I think I will say that having my husband, right, a partner that supports you in that decision, and probably in your case it was similar, I think that it is something like what they call, right, is it the whole golden handcuffs, maybe?
Oh, yeah,
the golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
It's real. It's absolutely real. And especially in the times we live now, right, where there, like, for example, pensions are pretty much gone unless you're in the government, right, in a government job. And in my case, I did have a pension because it was there when I started, and so that's something I also would leave. You don't leave it behind. You still kind of have up to that point of benefits, but you stop contributing. They stop contributing. So it's a real financial, I would say, limitation for people, and it really comes down to that pull you feel, right, to do something that's more aligned to your purpose or that makes you happier. I will say, that we've been very blessed that over time, both my husband and I are in finance. So even though we weren't advisors, but we've always been pretty good about, trying to just maximize income or savings, right? But I think what's nice about planning or just being ahead of it, to your point, is that it's not impossible. It really is thinking about it, and then the potential, in my case, I'll share, the potential for me of growth, and maybe the same for you, right? If things go well, yes, you might not have those benefits, but the potential for you to make money is so much bigger. Yeah. Like in corporate, I feel like my potential for making my income was limited to my role, right? To my grade level, to my function.
Yeah.
Whereas for me here, I'm early 40s. Like, I still have a long way to go before I stop working.
Yeah.
So I think what's nice about your own business, like in your case or my case, we have the potential to grow as much as if we want.
Yeah.
And we can. But financially speaking, if let's say you make 2 or 3 times your salary before, you can cover those benefits, no problem. Right? It's just
strategy.
The mindset. Exactly. It's the mindset of the security we feel when we have the benefits. Mm-hmm. But as an entrepreneur, like, you can also, right, deduct, actually, there's a lot of tax benefits where you'll pay for some of that, yes, but you can deduct it as a business expense.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of the pros of having your own business that sometimes when we're in corporate and we're a W-2 employee, we don't even know about or we can't use.
Yeah, I think that raises a really good point. Mm-hmm. It's what you don't know.
Yes.
And so that's why you could use advice and guidance from somebody who does know more and can kind of put all of the puzzle pieces together and say, okay, well, but if you look at it this way, the whole mindset aspect, you can't even get into the mindset if you don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I tell people, I kind of sometimes think of it as like with your medical health.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't like to go to the doctor because they don't want to know. Mm-hmm. And my dad was one of them. He used to say, "Oh no, I don't want to go because if something's wrong, they're gonna tell me all these things are wrong. I'd rather not know."
That's how I feel when I go to the mechanic.
Or that's another one, another good one, right? But at the end of the day, right, whatever issues are there, they're not gonna go away because you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's always better to know earlier rather than later. Because the problem, even medically or with your mechanic, with your car, it will only grow.
It will get worse.
Right? It will get worse to the point where you have to get a new car, or you're probably going to end up paying 2 or 3 times as much because now it's not just your brakes, but now it's your tires and some other things. So I love that one too. But that's the idea, is like, if you just confront it head on, you're always going to get a better outcome because at least now you know where you're at.
Yeah.
And look, I have some hard conversations. For example, there's people that are considering, they did their undergrad, they're working, they want something else with their career down the line, thinking about doing an MBA, right? And in an ideal world, right, they tell me, well, I would love to just go and do my MBA, 2 years, stop working. Oh. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, hold on a second, right? Let's look at that on paper. What does that look like? What are you going to do for income? Right? So it's like, there's the difference between like reality sometimes and yes, it's going to be dreamers, but finances or the numbers can help you bring them together.
Yeah.
And really see, right, is there a way to do that? Just like, again, with your car or with our bodies, if you want to have a goal, right, there's typically a plan you need to do, right? If we want to lose weight, there's certain things you probably need to start changing, right? How do we eat, exercising? So it's similar with finances. If you're not finding ways to either make more money or save more money, it's going to be tough, right, to get to some of those goals, where I have people that come to me is like, oh, I want to retire at 50 and they're young, right? So I'm like trying not to bust their
I want
bubble.
to retire at 50.
And I was like, oh, I would love to do, right? But they want to retire at 50. They want to own a home. But they also want to take time out for the masters. And I'm like, let's see. I don't know if that all comes together. There's a path we could lay out, but you may have to make some sacrifices, right? Maybe you have to work part-time while you do your master's. Maybe you do a part-time master's program while you work full-time to continue to build your foundation.
Yeah.
Right? So there's all these different ways, but to me, you said puzzle, and I love that you said that because that's how I think of it.
Yes.
I'm like, every single case, every single family or person I work with, when we start, that's what it feels like. It's like all these puzzle pieces all over the place, and you slowly start to put them together. And once I see the full picture, then I can really help them understand where the first step is, where are they at, right, financially? Where do they want to go? And then I kind of fill in that gap. Like, how do I help them get there?
Well, and doing a puzzle blindfolded would be really difficult. And so if you don't know what you're doing and you're just trying to blindly put the pieces together, probably not going to complete the puzzle. So that's where having somebody who can see how it all fits together, like has a better idea of the big picture and how it all works together.
Yes.
You got to have an expert or somebody who knows what they're doing at least.
Right. And so, for example, that's a great way to see it. If you are blindfolded, right? So a financial advisor or planner can be by your side telling you, right, like helping you. They can be your eyes while you're doing the puzzle, right? And they can tell you, oh, here's this piece, put it there, right? So even if you yourself, and I always tell that to people, it's not about them becoming experts, right? It's like any other, like you said, like the mechanic, the doctor, the personal trainer. We are people that support, right, someone. And so it doesn't mean they have to learn everything there is about finance. That's what kind of we're here for.
Yeah.
But you should know enough, and this is one thing that I feel pretty strongly about. You should also not follow advice blindly, right?
Yes,
it is good to be savvy enough, or get different opinions, or just talk to people, or your family, people that have advisors, right? Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I have people that are family members of clients.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, so-and-so has been telling me about reaching out to you for like months, and I just hadn't done it.
Yes.
Right, but then something happened, and then the person said, oh, yes, they helped me with this, right? Or God forbid, right, a death in the family or an illness shows up, and they say, oh, but did you have insurance? And they'll say, well, no, I didn't know I, needed it.
Yes.
Right? That's a big one. But by the time now they think of it, it may be too late. So I think that always breaks my heart because it's really about timing sometimes with some of that. Like when we talk about risk management, right? Insurance, if you have children, right? A lot of the GoFundMe campaigns, they break my heart.
Yeah.
Because it's something that a young person now has cancer. They have tiny little ones at home. The wife, was with the kids. And it's just a really difficult situation that, unfortunately, if they don't have those things in place, there's not that much we can do, right? Or they can do. But it's things that if you, to your point about good decisions or, a good decision I wish I did when I was in my early 20s
you tell.
Was to get life insurance at that time.
Yeah.
Because I knew, right, I was married. At that time, I knew I wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, myself, I was very good with finance and those things. I never thought about insurance as finance or part of financial planning.
Yeah.
And so that's been one of the biggest eye-opening things for me is, sure, now 20 years later, when I'm trying to get a policy, and now a lot of health issues that I found out about along the way, it's probably 4 times as expensive or more than what I would have paid.
You could get declined.
Or you don't get it at all. Exactly. And I sadly do have those situations sometimes where clients are just at a place now where they're, because of age or health, we can't find them someone that will take them, right? So those are things that I think could be avoided if we just knew this earlier on. But, it's never too late. Never too late to start. Never too late to...
Yes, if you're still breathing, there's a reason. There's still time that remains.
Yes.
What would you say are maybe 3 of the biggest things, putting you on the spot here, but 3 of the biggest money issues that people have that they may not realize a financial advisor, planner could really help them with to make their life, their future, their family down the road better off?
Mm-hmm. I would say for sure one of them is retirement.
Okay.
I think a lot of people just in a blanket way think the government's going to take care of them, right? Social Security, especially if they're like maybe closer to retirement and hopefully Social Security is still there for them. But I don't think people know enough about how much they're going to be getting. Yeah. And then also just the expenses they're having to pay. Yeah. So having those projections, I think, is very eye-opening for people, because then they realize, oh my goodness, right? If I don't start saving now or putting more into my 401k or a 403b or some sort of retirement account, and it grows because you need to invest it so that it grows as well.
Yeah, not under the mattress.
Exactly. Yeah. Not under the mattress, and not only in checking.
Yes.
Because that's another one, right? A lot of people, it feels good in hand,
liquid,
quote unquote.
Yes.
But it's not doing much for you, right? And you need that growth in order to, because imagine also the other thing with retirement, people don't think about if they spend, $200 now, how much is that really going to be in 20, 40 years?
Right.
A lot more than $20, right?
Yeah, so bad for the people that, were banking on their investments coming around like in 2020 and then now what they would be spending. That's obviously a crazy amount of growth that we've seen with inflation, but if you were budgeting for, $4,000 a month for like a senior health care, and now they're like $12,000, that's
Absolutely.
A lot.
Absolutely. So I think the just sense of something being far away, people don't really want to look at it.
Yeah.
That's the number one, I think, the retirement. I think the second one is risk planning, risk management. And I say that because there's a lot of different insurance products out there.
Yeah.
But even basic term life insurance and what it can do for a family, if they just, I'll give you an example, right? If it's a young family, they have kids, you could pay as little as $30 a month, right? To have coverage of $500,000 to $1 million. And I'm just giving you very general numbers.
Yeah.
But when you put into perspective how much people spend on Starbucks nowadays, right?
Yeah.
You go to a coffee shop, you buy something to eat, a bagel, and even Dunkin' Donuts, because it's gotten very expensive. But, but in general, right, you're going to spend $20 almost anywhere you go, right, if you buy something.
And especially if you have kids.
And so if someone told you, right, that you could potentially have your kids and feel that peace of mind that if you pay that a month, $20 a month, you could give your kids at least $500,000 if something were to happen to you.
Yeah.
I think most people, when you think of it that way, they're like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're right. But I think like you said.
But it's the mindset shift, right?
They're like, oh, but that's so far down the road. Like,
or you hope nothing ever happens.
True.
Or we don't think it's going to happen to us. But it's there's some policies, for example, that it's actually protecting you not only for death, but also for illnesses, right? Like disability is a big one.
Yeah.
So that's why I say risk management. It's like, how do you protect yourself from the risk of life, right? Getting into a car accident, not being able to work. So that's another big part of what people, I think, find very useful in learning more about.
Yeah.
And then the third one is probably around just debt management.
Okay.
I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed with that too, and we help them just figure out a plan, right? Like lower credit card debt. Maybe sometimes it makes sense to get a HELOC on your home to pay some of that off. But doing that analysis, I think, is sometimes really helpful for people.
Yeah, I think a lot of times just having somebody to help understand the different calculations and moving the levers a little bit, because an expert is a good one, is going to have and understand a lot of different things that you can play around with versus maybe you or some guru on YouTube maybe telling you to look at just this one path.
Absolutely.
It's like expanding your mindset to just have a better idea of what your options are so you can make the best decision for you in your situation, because money, finance is not one size fits all, right?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because I do think there's a lot of information out there, of course, and it can all be true in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
But whether that makes sense for you specifically or not, it's very dependent on your own situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons I'll mention is why a lot of us as financial advisors, from a legal perspective, we are not really allowed to go out and give advice generally, because it's not really correct, right? I can't possibly give specific advice that fits for multiple people at once, especially now in the age of social media where you might have, thousands or hundreds of people watching it. So that's why I say a lot of the education that I do, like if I do a workshop for students or, it could be high school students, college students, early career, corporate employees, it's tailored towards the things that they may be thinking about, right, in that specific stage of their life.
Yeah.
But it's more general and more educational in nature. But I always tell them, like, if they are or curious or have a specific situation, it's best to just talk to someone. And I would also just mention that it's not always expensive, or you don't always have to pay a fee. There are, like I will say, at least at Northwestern Mutual, we do have a lot of advisors that, like myself, we offer we don't do fee-based planning, and that's kind of what it's called. Now, there are a lot of fee-based planners as well and advisors, but it is possible to find just someone that will do an assessment without, like, as a consultation and not necessarily pay out of pocket for that. So I think people should take more advantage of that.
I think more companies in general should maybe offer that as a service to their employees.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my that's one of my visions, actually. But I think people like us, right? Like, I'm doing it myself. Like, I partner with companies with the ERGs, and I offer it for free to them as a workshop, or I even offer like a complimentary consultation if anybody that is there. But I think if more companies and more people did that, right, even just giving that initial level of knowledge, it could really, really change just as a society, like how much we know and how much we're able to just do because of knowing more about finances and the tips and tricks, I would say, of the wealthy.
Maybe there's hope. I mean, some of the larger companies out there are like having more health, aspirational environments for their employees. Whether it's to get them more productive or make them more active, who knows? But they're doing that. They see it as a need, right? And obviously, if your employees are mismanaging their money or stressed out about it, how productive are they going to be? And how good is that for them anyway? Like, they're going to be unhappy. They're not only going to be unhappy, but they could just be like unwell.
Right. And it's a good point you bring up too, though, because I will say some companies, I know AbbVie did, they sometimes do have resources and we don't take advantage of them. So I will say that the first step maybe would be going to their, the company's website, going into their benefits. A lot of times if you have a 401k through your employer, there is, you can at least get a consultation with one of their advisors, like let's say it's Fidelity or Empower, like one of these big companies, and they do offer, and it's going to be more basic, right? But it is a great tool and resource to use if you have it, and I think many people don't even think about that. So it is something to consider. I like that you brought that, because there are companies that have it. I don't think they do as good of a job at highlighting it, and making it more known to employees. I think a lot of people have it, but it's kind of in the fine print, if you will.
Let me ask you this, and don't take it personally, but so in real estate, for example, there's a bajillion realtors out there. But typically or have an idea who's going to be a good fit for you based on, the area of expertise that they have, their geographic area, that type of thing. Now, there's also a bajillion, probably not the technical accounting term, but
it's valid.
Yeah, there are so many people in the financial planning world as well.
Absolutely.
And so many different large companies. And I think some people have either been burned or have, negative analysis of them, like they've just seen them in a negative light. So how do you determine, if you were average Joe and you said, I really should start thinking about retirement, but I don't know even who to reach out to, and there's 5,000 leads online that I could look at. how am I going to determine who's the right fit for me? How do people do that? What do you recommend?
So I'll tell you what I think people do, and then maybe a little bit of what I would recommend based on my experience, obviously being on this side of things.
Yeah, no, perfect.
But I think typically the most common way is asking people you know, right? Meaning asking them not to give you the advice.
Yeah.
But asking who they work with.
Okay, that's how people do it, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of the business, I would say, in this industry is through referrals.
Okay.
Like traditionally and historically, like that is the best way for advisors to get new clients.
Yeah, I got a guy.
Yes. And similar to realtors maybe, or other, like a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. I think it's because we're human, right? And when you know someone and they're your friend or your sister or your parents, and you know that they've been helping them and they feel good and they'll share if it's a positive experience.
Yeah.
That's really probably the most common and effective way, I would say. What I'll share, though, is for me personally, in the Latino community, that is a disadvantage for us because no one we know typically has an advisor or has worked with an advisor.
Okay.
So this is why I'm saying both, right? In the traditional American families, what I'm finding is, oh, yes, of course, like they ask someone sometimes, or I've had clients where I meet them, right? And then they ask a family member, a brother, literally, or a parent, oh, yeah, I work with someone from Northwestern Mutual. They had no idea.
Yeah.
So I think the two-part answer is if you have nowhere else and you really don't know, I think the best place to start maybe is asking your circle, and maybe if you're in the situation I was in, maybe it's not your family. Maybe it's a coworker, right? Maybe it's one of the leaders.
Got it together.
Exactly, one of the leaders at your company, right? And just asking, hey, do you work with an advisor? Who do you work with, right? I think that's a great way because at least you know someone and that has hopefully had a positive experience. And whether it's like the company, or like there's a lot of things I learned being in this role. A lot of my AbbVie employees actually work with Northwestern Mutual in Chicago, right? I didn't even know that because no one ever talks about it. But asking that question, I think, can be a great way to start, whether it's the advisor themselves or maybe just the company. And then, in most of the companies, they have like thousands of advisors, and someone can always help refer you to if you have a specific, industry, like for realtors or for real estate market, people that work in that area. Yeah. And I think that's a better way to do it. I think online, what I have found, and myself by just talking to people sometimes, it's tough to know because a lot of times you get something on the outside or they're very good at marketing, right? They pose themselves as these experts and things. But then when you dig a little deeper, like someone like myself who knows about the industry, they're giving people advice that's not really proper for everyone. And that makes me a little bit worried, right? And so I think it's easy for people to follow that. Yeah. And I can't tell you there's certain types of, like, to your point about being burned, there's a lot of people that are sold like what's called like a universal life policy. Nothing bad against it, but sometimes those specifically have been sold to people that are probably not the right thing for them.
Okay, yeah. Which doesn't seem ethical, but okay.
Exactly. But it happens, and I'm learning about this now because I've seen people come to me that have this product or products like that I try to ask them, like, well, why did you get it? They don't know. They don't understand why they got it. They kind of were like convinced it was a good thing. But so knowing that does happen, I think that's the best way is really make sure it's someone that at least somebody you trust has worked with, or that it's like a reputable company. I do think the company matters. I think every company, from what I know, right, about us, you go, like, it's very stringent in terms of compliance, in terms of laws that are out there. Definitely, I would say the one thing that I learned is if you are going to do an insurance, any type of insurance, make sure it's with a long-standing company, right? The big ones, because if you do it with a small company that's super cheap, maybe, if they're not in business, you don't have insurance. Yeah. And there's really no laws that kind of protect necessarily around that, right? People can do that. Oh, geez. So those are just little things to think about, right? But so reputable company and referrals, or right through someone that you trust, because at the end it is a very sensitive topic. And I think one of the reasons that I love working in this space is that a lot of people tell me they feel they can be themselves and they can be open about their finances with me. And it's not something they're able to do or feel comfortable doing with anyone.
Right.
So at the end, it is, to your point, it's about fit, right? If people feel your energy, they like how you operate. A lot of people can do this. I'm not going to, honestly, like, I don't think it's the knowledge itself. I think it's the relationship building that makes the difference.
I like
At least
that.
that's how I operate.
Yeah, no.
And
I think
it makes a difference for me too, right, with the people that I work with.
I think that's helpful because I think some people are just like not even, they have blinders onto it because it maybe does seem boring or technical and hard.
Or cold, right? Very cold.
But the relationship aspect warms it up. So, so I know you mentioned that there's opportunities to have like consultations and you do education. So how can people reach you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if there's not many Letys with Lety only, a lot of other versions, but also I think maybe we can link it on the episode. But I am mostly, I would say, on LinkedIn in terms of I have a direct link to schedule a consultation on my calendar, so it's pretty easy. And I'll also share an email address and website with you so that we can post it on there. But any of those will work.
Yes.
And then, I'm happy to do like a free consultation with people, just to understand what they need and see if I could be a resource. But especially anybody that or is a viewer, I would love to give that support, especially being here in Orange County.
Yes.
And just really, really happy to have met you and connect, and be able to support and chat about finance.
No, absolutely. Love it. I'm sure you can empower so many people who don't even know that they need it. So.
I think we all could use a little guidance, but again, the level it all depends on how comfortable people are and where they are in life.
Yeah, very true. Well, Lety, thank you so much for sharing. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure the viewers do too. So
thank you so much, Holly.
Thanks for tuning in. We will
see you
next time on the Costa Mesa Pod.